Well, hello everyone. Today, I think we're going to come to the conclusion of Master Keizan's wonderful 14th century guidance on how to sit Zazen, which really is his riffing on Dogen's earlier Fukan Zazengi, but with a lot more to it. And those guys, 700, 800 years ago, man, they're speaking right to us. Zazen has not changed. It is truly timeless. But let's see what is he have to say at the beginning. Now this week is a little bit more about the actual how to, shall we say. I don't want to say the mechanics, because it's not just it is a physical thing, but it's not just physical. It's mind, it's body, and it's the whole universe sitting together. Always remember that it's not you sitting in the universe, and it's not just your body, and it's not just your mind. It's the whole universe sitting as you. Right? So let's see what he says. To practice sitting, find a quiet place and lay down a thick mat. Don't let wind, smoke, rain, or dew come in. Keep a clear space with enough room for your knees. Yeah, I banged my knees a few times on the wall. That's good advice. Although in ancient times there were those who sat on a diamond seat or on large stones for their cushions. Not me. I'm, my age. I've got, let's just say I need a little soft down there. The place where you sit should not be too bright in the daytime or too dark at night. It should be warm in winter and cool in summer. That's the key. Well, it's hot today. And I generally agree with Master Keizan. Master Dogen said much the same. He didn't go into quite as much detail. Generally, we sit in a quiet place, a still place, a clean place, in clean clothes, because it helps our mind become clean and still and balanced, generally. And generally, it's good to sit in a place where there's not too much disturbance. Yes. Quiet place where you're not sitting next to a car motor or bombs going off on a battlefield. Yes, generally this is true. A still and quiet environment is conducive, I believe in Spanish, conducivo, to Bjorn's eyebrow went up. I don't know if I pronounced that mistake. I saw that. Is conducive to a still mind. Asterisk, but this is where I have to now comment on Master Keizan, because in a sense, that's only generally true. The true Zazen is when you have to, I'm not saying you always invite this, you can sit in the ambulance that's taking you to the hospital. You can sit on the battlefield. You can sit in a thunderstorm. You can sit in an earthquake. I've done that. I sat in a hurricane in a closet as the winds of my house were literally blowing out, and I could hear the glass smashing in Florida years ago. I've sat in emergency rooms. Did it this week in the dentist chair. Today we had hijackers. And generally, we don't invite people in to disturb us, but the lesson here is we sit with the hijackers. They don't disturb us if you are not disturbed. They are what they are. They're just conditions. Disturbance takes, as I like to say, two to tangle. Get my little pun there? Two to tangle. Two to tango. Anyway, you have to put up with my jokes too. My old stale jokes. You have to put up with many things. If you are actually ever really kidnapped, you should sit Zazen there too. And don't say it doesn't happen, because look at the world today. We just had prisoners released in the United States yesterday. They were kidnapped, and there are hostages being held various places. If it ever happens to you, you sit there. So I have to disagree a little bit with Master Keizan and say it's generally conducive to sit in a quiet place, but the true quiet place is between your ears, in your own heart. And if there are any hijackers here, I invite them to come sit Zazen. It's a much better hobby or pursuit or path than hijacking. Let's sit in the rain. Now, one thing you always hear me say is it's about our mind untangling and putting down all our daily considerations of this and that. And we sit in radical equanimity and we let go of thoughts. We don't get on the brain train. Note to be on our next funk album. Don't get on the brain train. Tree leaves Zindo. Okay? Make a note of that. Okay. Don't get on the brain train. That is what Master Keizan says next. Drop mind, intellect, and consciousness. Leave memory, thinking, and observing alone. Now, he is not talking about blanking out of all thought. There are types of meditation that truly try to stop all thought. As you know about Shikantaza, it's about putting it down, letting it be. Now, these words like intellect, consciousness, memory, thinking, I don't think in the 14th century they were thinking in modern, neurological terms. But I've been listening to a lot of brain scientists recently about consciousness. And there are different kinds of consciousness. Most of the consciousness in our brain is happening in the subconscious, where your body is constantly receiving information, even right now, and processing it, and you have no awareness of it. It's only, phenomenological consciousness or sentience, the part you're aware of, right? Well, we're not trying to get rid of that either. It's just more a matter of we're not tied up in our thoughts. We leave the memories of what happened yesterday or 10 years ago aside. We're not tangled in what we observe like that. Okay? It's not about blanking out. If you see the hijackers, you just let them be and you sit in equanimity and don't think about them. You may say, oh, of course you hear them, whatever they're doing, but you're not tangled in them. If you tangle in them, you're letting them win. When we had the terrorist 9/11 in America, people freaked out big time. And I had a friend who said, I'm not driving on that day, he said, I have to pass Disney World in Florida. Do you think it's safe? So he drove like 30 miles out of his way in case, I don't know, the terrorists attacked Disney World and he just happened to be caught in it. I don't know what he was thinking. People were all freaked out. And I said, oh, you let the terrorists win. America, you let the terrorists win. How? By being terrified. If you're not terrified, they have no effect on you like that. It's a lot like that for our small little terrorisms in life. Next he says, don't try to fabricate Buddha. We sit goallessly. We don't try to become Buddha. We sit in radical non-doing, nothing, which means nothing needs to be done, radical equanimity. And then guess what? You've become an embodied Buddha. See, Buddha sat under the tree with this deep sense of it's all complete and nothing to do. He saw the morning star shining just to shine. There was nothing more to attain, no other place to go. And you were trying to attain that? You're trying to get there? See the little problem in that? But if you sit with radical, in your heart, emulating, in Spanish, emulación, no? If you sit in radical emulation of the Buddha, as if it's complete, as if you're feeling there's nothing more to do, as if you're shining just to shine, guess what? You are. It's literally a non-self-fulfilling prophecy, I like to say. So, we don't try to fabricate Buddha. Don't be concerned with how well or how poorly you think you are doing. As I always say, Zazen is always complete. If you say Zazen is complete, again, it's complete. And if you say, how's my Zazen doing? This doesn't feel right. Guess what? Yes, it's not right, because the judgment of it is completely between your own ears. We think that all the rating of life has to be outside and is objective. Well, a lot of it is inside. I'm not saying that if we just feel good, that it turns poison into pudding. No, poison is still poison, pudding is still pudding. But many things in life, many things are self-created pits and traps we fall into. I'm dealing with a couple of people now who are in self-created, I mean, they can't help it, but they're truly creating their hells that they're in. There are things that are objectively bad. I'm not saying it's wonderful to be kidnapped. I'm talking not the Zoom kind, I'm talking about the real kind. If you found yourself being held hostage, I'm not saying that's a good thing. What I'm saying is, it would be a lot different thing if you can just sit there and say, here I am. Now I'm here. And this is what it is. We have more power to change the world between our own ears than we realize. That's what Master Keizan is talking about. So just don't be concerned with how well you're doing, and don't think about how well you're doing, but this is something that Master Keizan adds in the next sentence. Don't just sit there like, I say, a bump on a log, or complacently, twiddling your thumbs, saying, okay, I'm just going to sit here. It's not that either. We vibrantly, energetically, vigorously, sincerely sit with nothing to attain. Weird, huh? Thus, Master Keizan, just understand that time is as precious as if you were putting out a fire on your head. In this case, this fire goes out, or shall we say, we let it burn without being bothered by it. It becomes a campfire, as opposed to a raging forest fire. It becomes a fire of light and warmth, rather than a burn down the house fire, when we just sit sincerely, energetically, allowing the fire to burn. Strange, huh? Don't try to put out the fire, neither fan it, pour gasoline on it. Let the fire be the fire, and that's how we sit. Now then he gets into the physical mechanics of it. The Buddha sat straight, except when he was sick, he had to recline. Bodhidharma faced the wall. There's a debate about that. He may have said to sit as a wall, which means, what does a wall do? It's hot outside. I actually am seeing my garden wall. It's not complaining in the sun. I see there's a bird sitting on the wall, probably doing what birds do on walls. The wall's not complaining. The wall is sitting upright and solid, accepting all. We sit as a wall, some people say, seeing the world as the wall sees it, not just facing the wall. Historians actually wonder if that expression of Bodhidharma facing the wall was something like Bodhidharma sat as wall seeing, as if the wall is seeing, something like that. Both were wholehearted and committed. Sekiso was like a gnarled dead tree. He just sat like that's usually a negative expression in Zen, but we say that the flower blossoms from the dead tree. It's very interesting. When the mind is calm, actually life springs forth. Nyojo, Dogen's teacher, warned against sleepy sitting and said, just sitting is all you need. You don't need to make burning incense offerings. You don't need to meditate upon the names of Buddhas. You don't need to repent. You don't need to study the scriptures or do recitation rituals. Well, as we've discussed many times, try not to sleep during Zazen, especially try not to sleep during my talks. Thank you. Especially you in Europe, where it's the middle of the night. Thank you. So we follow the guidance that we don't try to stay up all night. I've actually heard the Rinzai practice. There's a practice where they try to stay up in session for an entire week. And I've spoken to both Rinzai monks about this. And here in Tsukuba, we have some of the world's most famous sleep researchers, Nobel Prize class. They're nominees, for example, on sleep. And I've had the honor of speaking about this with them. And they said, no, man, they're sleeping. You can't stay up that long. You're going to, I mean, people do it and they go mad because the brain needs to sleep. The brain needs to sleep. So we try in Zen to get healthy sleep. We're not lazy again, but we sleep. And the sleeping is part of Zazen, but we try not to sleep during Zazen, of course. That's what Nyojo was, you don't come to Zazen to sleep. It happens to all of us sometimes, though. And he said, you don't have to do all these things. Well, remember, Zen monks always speak out of both sides of their no-sided mouth. So Keizan, Dogen, and pretty much even the most radical, you would think, iconoclastic, for my Spanish speakers, iconoclasmo. Nope. Okay. The most iconoclastic book burning monks, historians have shown, you can see it in Dogen's writing, in Keizan's writing, because at other times they talk about in the temple burning incense and chanting the names of the Buddhas and doing the verse of atonement, repenting and studying the scriptures. He's saying you don't need to do anything else. He didn't say we don't do those things. And also when you're sitting Zazen, there's only Zazen. When you're sitting Zazen, it is all those things. Done, asked, and answered during the time of Zazen. And then, of course, the monks would get up and chant and do what monks do. Okay, when you sit, wear the kesa. If you've received one, take in the precepts, right? Except in the first and last parts of the night when the daily schedule is not in effect. Real technical point there. If you go to, for example, monastery, the first sitting in the morning, most of the monks, I think the monk who's leading the shuso, for example, will be wearing kesa. But the rest of the time you come in and you carry your kesa and you put it by your side and you sit Zazen without wearing your kesa or raksu. And then at the end of that first group of sittings, you place it upon your head, recite the verse of the kesa, and then you first put it on. Okay? I made that mistake the first time I visited a temple, and the monk came over. No, take your kesa off. Take your kesa off. Like that. Very embarrassed. Don't be careless. Good advice. The cushion should be about 12 inches thick and 36 in circumference. Don't put it under the thighs, but only from the mid-thigh to the base of the spine. I haven't checked these numbers to see if they match our present dimensions of the zafu, but I like to say make sure your spine is slightly forward of the central point because it gets a nice wedge effect. Don't sit directly with your spine on the central axis or behind the central axis because that puts pressure on the back. Sit slightly forward. Nothing has changed in all these centuries. This is how the Buddhas and patriarchs have sat. You can sit in the full or half lotus position He repeats Dogen's Fukan Zazengi here. To sit in the full lotus, put the right foot on the left thigh and the left foot on the right thigh. Some left-handed folks ask me if you always have to do that. My answer in modern sense is no. In traditional Chinese medicine, there is actually the belief that if you do it the other way, it's going to mess up your qi circulation through the body. I don't know, everything's going to go the other way, like you're in Australia. I don't know what people in Australia, if you sit Zazen in Australia, I guess you do it the other way because the qi circulates the other way. I don't know. In Australia, I'm talking Northern Hemisphere, folks. And homeless Kodo Sawaki wrote something that it's the energy has got to circulate through. With all due respect to Kodo Sawaki and Keizan, baloney. Okay, so lefties, if you want to sometimes switch it up, or anyone, the righties, switch it up. Switch it up. Okay? By the way, those who don't sit in the lotus posture, you know what I'm going to tell you. Do what the body allows. Keizan is speaking here for 14th century monks. I guess it was more one size fits all. Even the Buddha reclined when he was sick. If you need to sit a different way, as long as it's stable, balanced, comfortable as possible for your body, and lets you sit long, then it's a stable, good way for you to sit. You don't have to do this whole rigmarole here. Loosen your robes, but keep them in order. Don't flash anybody in the Zendo. I've done that too. Don't accidentally flash anybody. Guy said, pull your robe down. We're seeing too much. We're seeing the wishing jewels. Pull your robe down. I've done that. Put your right hand on your left heel and your left hand on top of your right. Again, yes, lefties, that's generally what we do. Thumbs together and close to the body at the level of the navel. I've had people who say, I've got really short arms, I have to sit with my hands up here. Generally, it should just rest in your lap. You know, it shouldn't feel strange. Yeah, I know. And even if you got to put a pillow under your hands sometimes, I know people who put pillows under their hands. If you're a large fellow, you have what we call the hara. My energy center here is very large. You can't see on the camera here. I rested upon my, yes, like Biona's doing. I rested upon my natural Buddha belly, as we say. But no, mine rests in the lap. It's best if it just rests in the lap. Keep a nice egg shape. I can usually tell people who are doing, if their fingers are ajar or they're sagging, I can tell the mind is kind of ajar or sagging. It's an old Zen teacher's trick. If your hand is nice egg-shaped, round and spacious, it usually means the mind is round and spacious, like that. Let's see, where else were we? Sit straight without leaning to the left, right, front, or back. Ears and shoulders, nose and navel should be aligned. Place the tongue on the palate and breathe through the nose. Just remember to breathe. We don't do anything unusual, but we breathe nice from deep down in my Buddha belly. I breathe nice, regular pace. The mouth should be closed. Okay. If you have asthma attacks like I have gotten over the years, then you just keep breathing any way you can. Again, the point is not that the breath is going to do something. It's that if you accept your condition, it's perfect breath. It's perfect breath. Even if you're a wheezer, you need to wheeze, you have some respiratory issues, no problem. They're not respiratory issues unless you make it an issue. Of course, hopefully you do keep breathing. Now, in all seriousness, when I was very sick with a respiratory illness and I had something, I had trouble breathing. I was really short of breath. I was almost passing out, and I was going to the hospital to get it fixed. It was some kind of respiratory infection years ago. And I did somehow manage in the midst of that to kind of, don't want to say sit Zazen. It was more like, just keep breathing, Zazen. It helped. It really did help. I really somehow, I think, got control of the situation more, and it was a lot more pleasant. And so as best you can, even in a crisis like that, remember, you make it worse, you pour gasoline on it when your mind stresses. My mother used to say, deal with the situation right now. You can panic later. Panic later, it's okay. But right now, just relax. Deal with the situation as best you can. Place the tongue on the palate and breathe through the nose. Having the tongue in the back of the teeth keeps you from swallowing so much. That's a good thing. The eyes should be open, but not too wide, not too slight. That's just like we sit. The reason is we don't run towards life. We don't run away. Harmonizing the body in this way, breathe deeply with the mouth once or twice, sit steadily, sway the torso 7 or 8 times. 7 or 8 times, that's a lot. I'm a three swayer. No? You're a 5? What are you, a 5? You know? You're a 5. Yeah? What is that? What's that? Okay. No, I'm a 3 swayer. That's all I need. Sit straight and alert as you can. If you need to, and again I add here, if you need to recline, if you need to stand because of a physical condition, no problem. Now think of what is without thought. How can you think of it? Be beyond thinking, non-thinking, thinking, non-thinking. I've given so many talks on that. I'm not really going to get into this. Again, it's Master Dogen's famous expression. This is the essence of Zazen. Shatter obstacles and become intimate with awakening awareness. I will just give in a nutshell what I think this is. Our mind is filled with thoughts. There is the blue sky, the clarity, the mirror that is somehow open beyond all divisions and thoughts and judgments. And our sitting is somehow the realizing that it is their unification. That's a bad word for it, but the clouds are the blue sky is the clouds. The thoughts are the thought without thoughts. The divisions of this world are somehow also without division, like that. Thinking, non-thinking, something like that. The mind simplifies, the illumination, the clarity, the wholeness, the non-friction, shines through and as all the frictions and divisions of this world, something like that. Okay, we're done. Now it's time to get up. When you want to get up from stillness, put your hands on your knees, sway 7 or 8 times in increasing movement. Again, I'm a three. Up to you. Breathe out through your mouth, put your hands on the floor, or put your hands to the floor, not if you're sitting up high. You mean put your hands down. Don't fall on your butt. I've caught too many people over the years, some of them much bigger than me, because they get up from Zazen and they just keep going. And I gotta, okay? We actually put a red warning on our Zazen page. Please get up slowly. You know, the blood pressure is down, you're a little bit sitting still. Get up slowly, is what he's saying. Get up lightly from your seat. Don't fall. Don't hurt yourself. Then slowly walk, circling to the right or left. Kinhin, as we know it, may not have existed back then. It's not clear. They did some kind of walking. He may have just meant have a walk. The kinhin we do may have been developed more formally as we do it a little later as more walking zazen, but they did some kind of walking practice. That's what he's saying. Okay, now I'm going to go to the next page, which I'm going to go, this is what happens when Zen goes wrong. Okay? Because it's lovely when everything, the birds are chirping and you're feeling peaceful and the mind is still and you've had enough sleep. Oh, by the way, too, another thing, I have to apologize today. I have a work emergency. I've got one of my translation guys who's literally killing me over a comma. Okay? I mean, I keep telling, where's the comma go? No, I keep telling him, and Japanese people sometimes don't believe that I speak English. And they think they speak English better than me, and it's so I'm dealing with something here. But I fixed it. It's all settled now. That's why I had to leave for part of Zazen today. It's fine. It's fine. Okay? I put that down during Zazen, right? But some days our mind is just a mess. We're cluttered, we're stormy. So what do? He says, if dullness or sleepiness overcome your sitting, move to the body. I think he just means move the body. That would make more sense. Move the body and open the eyes wider. Okay. Place attention above the hairline or between your eyebrows. Okay. I don't know if he's really literally talking about the third eye or something up there. He may just be focus. If you're still not fresh, rub the eyes or the body. If that still doesn't wake you up, stand up and walk, always clockwise. That's that thing I told you. The universe, we always turn clockwise when we can, because the universe is felt to go clockwise. Maybe he also means if you're going to get up and walk, just don't bump into the other people who are by walking counterclockwise. Then that would be like bumper cars in the Zendo. We don't want that. So walk clockwise. Once you've gone about 100 steps, you probably won't be sleepy any longer. The way to walk is to take a half step with each breath, walk without walking, silent and not moving. That sounds like Yin too. It's just common sense stuff. What to do if you're tired? Pinch yourself, get a cup of tea. There actually, these Zen guys I know sits with kind of like an awl, a needle thing, and he sits in his hand, and if he gets tired, it pokes him in the thigh, and you wake up, poke you in the thigh, and I don't. They actually have this stick. I've posted this about. The guys would put it under their chin. It looks like a yardstick, and they put their chin on it. They actually have ropes they would tie to the ceiling, and they put under the arms, and you sit there like a marionette puppet. I'm not sleeping. I'm awake. I'm not sleeping. Yeah, right. Okay. So they had all these things. It's the usual thing. We've all been there. People say, what do I do if I get sleepy during Zazen? Sorry, try to get some sleep, drink some tea, take some deep breaths. I like to stretch the back of my neck. That helps. Stretching the spine, not too tightly, just a little. That helps. The Chinese, I went to the Chinese place. They do this great, do they do this, Keizan? Have you seen, Keizan, have you seen this? Where they do the slapping? Ow, it even hurts. They're doing this before Zazen, Yeah, that'll wake you up. Whew. You haven't seen that? I saw that Vietnam, China, when I've sat, they do this. It's actually a pretty good practice, but we don't do it. Okay, if you still don't feel fresh after doing Kin Hin, wash your eyes and forehead with cold water, then try hot water, then, I don't know, eat a jalapeno pepper, or one of those Mexican peppers there. Oh my gosh. Okay. Then try chanting something silently to yourself. He says, try chanting the 3 pure precepts of the Bodhisattvas. Do something, he says. Just don't fall asleep. Do something. That's what he said here. Do something. Now you should be aware of the great matter of birth and death and the swiftness of impermanence. That's why we're here, to transcend birth and death, by the way, guys. You did realize that that's what this is all about. It's not just take a chill pill here. We're literally trying to discover that clarity, the open sky, the deathless, that is this world of division, friction, coming and going, birth and death are not two, Life and death are the great matter. You've heard that expression. He said, I'm reminding you, by the way, don't sleep. You're trying to transcend death here. Plenty of time to sleep, guys, when you're, 6 feet under, if you get my drift. You'll get lots of sleep then. Don't sleep now. What are you doing sleeping when your eye of the way is still clouded? If dullness and sinking arise repeatedly, you should chant, habituality is deeply rooted. I guess that means karma. Karma is deeply rooted, and so I am wrapped in dullness. When all dullness disperse, may the compassion of the Buddhas and patriarchs lift this darkness and misery. Frankly, if I was chanting that thing, that would put me right to sleep. I don't know. I'd get habituality is deeply. That's not going to do it for me. We had a thing about ear bugs. What is it? Earworms. I would even recommend. Why don't you try that? I would rather sit there going. My song. Does anyone remember this? Ooga chaka, ooga chaka, ooga chaka. I just got this feeling deep inside of me. Ooga chaka, ooga, ooga. Does anyone, is it just me? No other children of the early 70s here? No? Okay, thank you. Thank you. I don't know what to tell you. It's my version. If you got to do that to stay awake, better to do that. Just do your ooga chaka while knowing the deathless or something. Okay? Okay, if the mind wanders, place attention on the tip of the nose and the tanden, that's the below the navel, the power center, the hara. You can put your attention down there and count the inhalations and exhalations. Notice this, we are not counters and we are not koan meditation folks. But if you're really, really distracted, really in a stormy place, really in that place you can't get an anchor, then for a while, focus on a mantra, count, focus on a koan phrase, focus on Uga Chaka, whatever it takes for a while, then return putting down the counting, put down the mantra, put down the koan, and just sit. So notice, this is very interesting. Did these guys practice koan introspection? Did they practice counting? Generally not, he's saying, except on those certain days, when you really need an anchor, okay? So he said, if the mind wanders, okay, count the inhalations and exhalations. If that doesn't stop the scattering, then bring up a phrase and keep it in awareness. For example, what is it that comes thus? When no thought arises, where is affliction? Mount Sumeru, the great central mountain of the Buddhist universe. What is the meaning of Bodhidharmas coming from the west? These are, traditional koan phrases. The cypress tree in the garden. Sayings like that, which you can't draw any flavor from, are suitable to settle the mind. 2 comments on that. Again, he's saying to do this when you need an urgent life preserver. When you can, we don't do that usually. We just sit. That shows that these guys were mostly just sitting people, except when you're having your, I need a little extra day. Number 2, what did all those expressions mean? I just said, little plug, we are soon starting to look at the Blue Cliff Record koan collection here in our Sangha, when we will deal with many of those very same expressions and the meaning of those teachings I just read. I'll talk about that later. Be there or be square. Okay, Blue Cliff Record. Okay. And I'm not even doing the whole Blue Cliff Record, only the good parts. So leave it. You will understand it. Oh, the Blue Cliff Record is a mess. And everybody knows it. Okay, anyway. Oh, we're not done yet. What happens if that doesn't work? If scattering still continues? Sit and look at the point where the breath ends and the eyes close forever, and where the child is not yet conceived. All right, that's like get really that point beyond life and death, whatever. When not a single concept can be produced. I guess he's saying, then do a real focus Zazen. When the sense of the twofold emptiness of self and things appears, scattering will surely rest. If that doesn't work, drink a Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew is that highly caffeinated. You got to be American maybe to know Mountain Dew. Or what's that they got now? Red Bull? Is that the stuff? Okay, yeah. I don't recommend that usually. We don't take things for Zazen, but we're big on tea in moderation. But Okay? So anyway, he's saying basically he doesn't know what to do. Do whatever works, guys. I don't know. Settle down. Settle the mind. Again, we're not trying to completely stop and quiet the mind. That is not what we're trying to do, nor are we wallowing in thoughts, nor are we lost in the storm, nor are we pouring gasoline on the mental fire. The middle way here. We're not trying to be in a coma, and neither are we trying to be prisoners of thoughts. We're trying to be non-attached to basically settled thoughts that come and go, keeping that needle in the nice middle range, kind of there, okay? All right, hey, looks like we're going to get to the end today. Arising from stillness, carry out activities without hesitation. This moment is the koan. Take it off the cushion when you get back to life. Keep that same stillness and open boundlessness and no birth and deathlessness in your heart as you come to function in this crazy world with your crazy client who doesn't understand where the comma goes in a sentence. Sorry, calming down, calming down. Okay? Or the hijackers. No, calming down. No, seriously, when you're dealing with stuff, why? Man, what is it? You just want to practice that when you're facing a wall, it's going to relax you for 10 minutes and then you're going to, no. Get out into the world here of life and death and chaos and war and peace and all of it, and have some wisdom now in your heart that knows something else, the light and illumination that shines not only behind those things, not only that's hidden by those things, the light and illumination that is shining as those things. The chaos and division is the boundlessness and the wholeness and the nothing to attain, even as we keep running in life. This moment is the koan. When practice and realization are without complexity, then the koan in this moment is present. The koan is this present moment. That which is before any trace arises. The scenery on the other side of time's destruction. Just heard Stephen Hawking yesterday talking. That's a real thing. He's all into this. The timelessness of the universe is pretty much well understood by physicists now. There is something beyond all the movement and division that even the physicists know is the timeless. The activity of all Buddhas and patriarchs, your activity, your crazy life, is just this one thing. You're not trying to find the peace that only comes. I'm going to tell you one more story about when this happened. It's a silly story. If you think Zazen is a vacation and then you're going to get back, I got to get back to life, you're looking at Zazen wrong. And I literally had this happen on a vacation. In Mexico, one of my few trips to Mexico, I won a trip to Cancun. Okay? This was years ago, like in the 70s. I got a trip to Cancun. And I'm flying there, and I'm a very unhappy 26-year-old, and I say, I need a vacation. And we got there right in the middle of a hurricane. And our vacation was wiped out. The hotel literally flooded. Our room was in the dark. My first meal in Cancun, instead of the big banquet, was some kind of a can of Campbell's soup. We didn't have any milk, so we just opened the can. My wife and I, we ate half a can of Campbell's clam chowder, or cream of mushroom, with a spoon, or our fingers. That was our dinner. Everything was canceled. There was nothing to do. We got evacuated. It was the best vacation I had. Why? I relaxed completely and let it happen. I couldn't have been on the beach with a cocktail in my hand with a little umbrella and been any happier. I had just started practicing Zen, I don't know, about a few years at that time. And yeah, the real vacation is not circumstances. There's your lesson. You don't need to go to Cancun. Just face the wall and then get up. You should just rest and cease. Be cooled. Pass numberless years at this moment. Be cold ashes, a withered tree. an incense burner in an abandoned temple. It's interesting. These are usually called criticisms of Buddhism because it seems like the Rinzai people say, oh, those Soto people, they're sitting lifelessly, like they're an old, cold, dead, ash-filled incense burner in an abandoned temple or a withered dead tree, or they're sitting like cold ashes and, in an old neglected stove, something like that. And the Soto people said, hey, Rinzai buddies, you don't get us, man. You see, those cold ashes are burning with all the life of the universe. That dead tree, man, is sprouting flowers every moment. The incense burner in the old abandoned temple is ever chanting to the Buddhas. Dig it. Blew those guys away. You are a piece of unstained cloth on which the whole universe is written. Okay? And then he says, that's my earnest wish. Get to it. Drop the mic. Anyway, we have finished the Yojinki, and I've run a little long today, but any questions, comments?